Welcome, deep divers, to another exploration here on the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something pretty surprising that, well, it sent some ripples through the arts and crafts world recently. We're talking about Michael's company's acquisition of JoAnn Fabric's intellectual property. Now, hold on. This wasn't Michael's just buying up every JoAnn store or, taking over the whole operation. No, it was actually a very specific kind of strategic move focusing on what they call intangible assets. Okay, let's unpack exactly what that means.
And what's truly fascinating here, really, is how this move signals a broader shift, a more sophisticated one, I think, in modern retail strategy. It just highlights the massive strategic value of these intangible assets in today's commerce, especially, within a much-loved niche market like crafting. So our mission for you today is really to understand what this very targeted acquisition actually means. For consumers, yeah, but also for competitors, and frankly, for the future of the craft industry itself.
Absolutely. And whether you're a devoted crafter, always hunting for that next project, maybe a small business owner trying to navigate this rapidly changing market, or even if you're just genuinely curious about the cutting edge of business strategy, this deep dive is going to give you some really clear insights. So let's jump right in.
All right, so let's start with the big headline. The news dropped. Michaels acquired the intellectual property of JoAnn Fabric. My first thought, and I bet a lot of people thought this, was kind of like, wait, is JoAnn just gone now? Poof.
Oh, yeah, that's a natural reaction.
But the reports were super clear. This was not a full acquisition of JoAnn's entire business. So, okay, if they didn't buy the whole company, what did they actually buy? And why is that such a big deal? You've really hit the crucial distinction there. Perfectly put. This transaction, it isn't about Michaels absorbing JoAnn's physical stores or, taking on all their employees overnight. That's not it. What it does signal, though, is a very strategic consolidation. They're bringing valuable brand power and creative assets directly under Michaels' control. Now, for consumers, like you said, this doesn't mean JoAnn stores vanish tomorrow, but it certainly suggests a pretty profound shift in JoAnn's, let's say, long-term viability under its original brand. I mean, Michaels now owns the name, the digital presence, and for competitors. Well, it underscores this modern retail strategy where intangible assets, things like brand reputation, customer loyalty, creative content, they're increasingly seen as, frankly, more valuable and strategically vital than just the physical infrastructure alone.
So it's not a simple takeover at all. It's way more subtle, more strategic, happening kind of behind the scenes. This could genuinely reshape the whole arts and crafts industry. And it also brings up a question for all the craft enthusiasts out there, right? How might this specific deal impact the overall variety of products you can actually find across the market?
That's a critical point, absolutely. While Michaels might integrate some of JoAnn's popular lines, maybe cherry-pick the best sellers, there's always that potential risk of reduced overall variety if two major players essentially merge their offerings, even partially.
Yeah, makes sense.
It also signals, a new chapter where this intellectual property stuff, the IP, is seen as absolutely crucial for growth, for innovation, and definitely for market control in creative businesses. It's about leveraging every single aspect of a brand's power.
It's fascinating stuff, really. But okay, if it wasn't the entire company, what exactly did Michaels purchase? We hear this term IP acquisition, and for a lot of us, it just sounds like, I don't know, corporate jargon. Can you maybe break down IP acquisition for us in, plain English?
Absolutely. Happy to. When a company like Michaels acquires intellectual property, or IP, they are specifically targeting valuable intangible assets. Think of it like this. Maybe like buying the secret recipe for a really popular cake. You're not necessarily buying the entire bakery with all its ovens and staff and the physical building.
Ah, the recipe. Okay, I like that. That's a perfect analogy. So using that analogy, what specific ingredients or assets are we talking about here? What crucial bits of JoAnn's recipe did Michaels actually pick up?
Right. So we're talking about some truly crucial items, and each one has pretty significant strategic value. First off, you've got the trademarks and brand names. Think JoAnn itself. That represents decades of customer trust recognition.
Huge value.
Immense. Then they've acquired the domain names and social media handles. That gives them control over JoAnn's entire digital identity, its online presence. And critically, this includes customer databases and loyalty programs. This is a big one. It provides direct access to these established crafter communities, their purchasing habits. I mean, effectively, Michaels now has a direct line to millions of loyal JoAnn customers.
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah. It also covers a huge amount of copyrighted content, things like sewing patterns, project guides, maybe instructional videos. It's a rich library of how-to ideas. And finally, there's often proprietary software, apps, and digital tools. These could be e-commerce platforms or maybe internal systems that drive efficiency and digital engagement.
So it's really not just about the name on the door, is it? It's about the entire digital footprint, that direct connection with the customer base. Michaels now owns the right to operate or even license out the JoAnn brand, control its website, its social media, and utilize all that creative content and the customer data. It really does highlight that the value of a brand today stretches way beyond just the physical storefronts.
Precisely. Yeah, this type of acquisition truly highlights a sophisticated business strategy. Companies can gain significant market advantages just by targeting these specific IP assets, without taking on the extensive overhead and, frankly, the complexities of a full corporate merger or buyout. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really demonstrates that a company's true long-term value, its competitive edge in the modern economy. It's increasingly rooted in its intangible intellectual assets, not solely its physical presence. It's a fundamental shift. And, people often ask, how do you even put a price on this stuff? How is the financial value of, say, customer loyalty programs or software assessed during an acquisition? Well, it's complex. It involves projecting future revenue those assets might generate, analyzing similar deals in the market, assessing the strength of the brand. It's quite involved.
Right. So Michaels didn't just buy a business. It sounds like they bought a blueprint for market dominance. But why this particular blueprint? What's the master plan here? What's the sort of primary strategic play Michaels is making with this move?
That's a great question because you're right. This isn't just about collecting brand names like Pokemon cards, as you might say. There's definitely a clear method here. One primary strategic reason is brand consolidation. Michaels can now potentially integrate the best aspects of the JoAnn brand. Maybe its rich history, its specific expertise in fabrics, that strong customer goodwill into its own existing offerings. This isn't just about adding another name to the stable. It's about enhancing Michaels' overall brand reach and, crucially, creating significant opportunities to cross-sell products to new audiences.
Okay, so for us, the listeners, this might actually mean seeing things like, I don't know, JoAnn signature fabrics, or maybe new craft kits reflecting that combined expertise appearing in Michaels stores or online.
That's exactly the kind of thing, yes.
Yeah.
It aims to make Michaels the sort of undisputed one-stop shop for pretty much everything craft-related.
And then there's the whole digital side you mentioned. JoAnn apparently had some serious game in e-commerce and online content. How does acquiring JoAnn's digital IP play into Michaels' strategy?
Oh, digital expansion is definitely a key motivator here, no doubt. JoAnn had made significant strides in digital content, e-commerce platforms, owning its online assets, its creative platforms. That gives Michaels a substantially stronger digital footprint in the market, almost overnight. And this reflects that broader trend in retail, where digital presence and these seamless omni-channel experiences are just paramount for growth.
Right, meeting customers wherever they are.
Exactly. So what's fascinating here is how this acquisition is really a calculated strategic maneuver by Michaels. They want to dominate the digital craft market, and they're doing it efficiently by enhancing their own market reach and perceived value without taking on the full operational burdens of a traditional merger or needing to build all those capabilities from the ground up. They essentially fast-track their digital growth.
So they want to be the biggest and the best, especially online. Makes sense. But there's another side to this strategy, right? Beyond just growth, what other key strategic motivations are at play here, especially when you think about customers and maybe keeping competitors in check?
Well, absolutely. Beyond expanding their own brand and digital reach, two other major drivers are definitely customer acquisition and limiting competition. First, on customer acquisition. Like you said earlier, if you thought they were just after pretty patterns, think again. They're absolutely after shopping habits. Michaels now has access to JoAnn's loyalty programs, those extensive customer lists, valuable data analytics.
The gold mine.
It really is. These assets give Michaels a powerful tool to target existing JoAnn customers, personalize marketing efforts, and significantly expand its own customer base. It just highlights that customer data and established loyalty programs are now fundamental intellectual property assets. They offer immense value for targeted marketing, direct customer base expansion.
So Michaels could, theoretically know which crafters usually buy yarn for knitting versus those who prefer fabric for quilting, and then send them super specific promotions.
Precisely that kind of granularity, yes. And that's not just about winning new sales. It's also, as you touched on, about making sure no one else can play in your sandbox quite as effectively.
Mm.
Which brings us to the other big reason, limiting competition.
Right, the defensive move. How does grabbing the IP achieve that?
Well, by controlling JoAnn's IP, Michaels effectively limits what any competitor can do with the JoAnn brand, its specific content, or its customer data. This proactively prevents, say, a potential JoAnn rebound under some new ownership down the line, or it stops a new market entrant from strategically using JoAnn's established assets. It basically secures Michaels' market position. IP acquisition really serves as a robust defensive strategy. It allows a dominant player to control the market by limiting competitors' access to crucial brand assets, content, customer relationships.
So, to what extent does that legally restrict other businesses then? Can another company still sell similar fabric?
Oh, sure. It largely prevents others from using the JoAnn brand name or its specific copyrighted content directly.
Oh.
Like, they can't just copy JoAnn's unique patterns and sell them. It doesn't stop another company from selling yarn or fabric, of course not. But it erects pretty significant barriers to leveraging that established, recognized JoAnn brand and its associated customer base within the market.
Gotcha. So, data and brand recognition really are powerful weapons in the modern retail arsenal. It's not just about what you sell anymore, is it? It's who you sell it to and how effectively you can stop anyone else from getting there first. It's about getting smarter about the market and, yeah, leaving less room for anyone else.
Indeed. But, this naturally leads us to the biggest question of all. What does this really mean for the crafting world as a whole?
Mhm.
For both the big players like Michaels and maybe more importantly, for all those small independent shops out there?
All right, yeah, we've broken down the hows and the whys of this specific deal. Now for the really big picture view. What does this mean for the entire craft industry? Is it like the dawn of a new craft empire dominated by one giant? Or could it potentially be the beginning of the end for, independent yarn shops and those bespoke craft businesses we love?
Well, this IP-focused acquisition, it definitely reflects a growing trend right across retail, where brand value extends far, far beyond just physical storefronts. I mean, in many cases today, intellectual property is demonstrably more valuable than inventory sitting on shelves or even leases on buildings. As consumers increasingly shift towards digital, towards these omnichannel experiences, owning the content, the customer data, the brand equity itself, that becomes the paramount growth strategy.
And the impact on smaller competitors.
For smaller, independent competitors, yeah, this move could definitely lead to increased market pressure. No way around that. Michaels gains dominance in content, in customer loyalty, potentially in product variety.
Yeah.
And that translates into increased pressure on pricing for the little guys, maybe limited access to prime suppliers, even difficulty competing for online visibility as Michaels expands its already significant digital footprint.
So, okay, for you, the consumer, listening right now, there might be some potential upsides, maybe improved shopping experiences through integrated apps, or perhaps expanded product access if Michaels successfully merges the best of both brands.
Potentially, yes. In the short term, maybe.
But there's also that long-term risk, isn't there? The risk of
Right.
just less variety across the whole market. You might gain convenience, sure, but you could potentially lose that unique, almost like treasure hunt feeling you get, finding something truly distinctive at a local specialized shop.
Exactly. That's the trade-off, potentially. The Michaels Joe IP acquisition really serves as a powerful textbook example of how intellectual property has become the central pillar of modern retail strategy. It's driving not only market control, but also opportunities for growth and innovation. But while it might offer some short-term benefits, this kind of widespread consolidation also presents that long-term risk. Reduced market variety, increased pressure on smaller businesses. It impacts the entire creative ecosystem. It just underscores how essential IP is, now not just for protection anymore, but really for growth, innovation, and ultimately market control.
It truly is a fascinating time, and maybe a little scary, for crafters and retailers alike. So what can we actually do as consumers or maybe as smaller businesses trying to navigate this new landscape?
Okay, yeah, let's get practical. For those smaller craft businesses out there, maybe feeling the squeeze right now, my first suggestion would be hyper focus on your niche. Really drill down. Don't try to be everything to everyone like a giant like Michaels has to be. Instead, be the absolute best at one specific thing, whether that's, sustainable yarn, unique resin molds, custom calligraphy kits, whatever it is. And then build a strong community around that specialty. Because what's fascinating here is that even in a consolidating market, uniqueness, personalized service, that strong community connection, those can be incredibly powerful differentiators.
Yeah, I agree completely. Find your tribe, right? And thinking about Michaels looking forward, maybe a suggestion for them could be to think about how to respectfully integrate JoAnn's legacy. Instead of just, swallowing it whole, maybe they could launch specific JoAnn heritage collections. Or perhaps retain certain digital content under a co-branded banner, something to honor the acquired IP without totally alienating those longtime JoAnn loyalists. Can you imagine the buzz for like a limited edition JoAnn 1987 throwback collection with classic patterns?
Uh-huh. That's actually a great idea for managing brand loyalty. Smart. And for you, the listener, if you are concerned about market variety shrinking, well, you can actively seek it out. Make a conscious effort to support local craft fairs, independent online artisans, those small brick-and-mortar shops. Their uniqueness is their strength, and supporting them directly influences market diversity. That's your power. Independent stores can absolutely differentiate themselves and even thrive against a dominant player like Michaels. How? By offering unique products, fostering those strong local communities, delivering personalized, expert-driven experiences, things a large chain just can't easily replicate. So yeah, your purchasing choices can absolutely influence market variety. What stands out to you is what you should support.
It really does come down to finding your niche, whether you're selling or buying, protecting your clever ideas, and making sure that even in a market that feels like it's consolidating, there's still plenty of room for individual flair and those truly unique offerings. Maybe I should finally patent my idea for that cat-shaped yarn winder.
You should. And that, deep divers, brings us towards the end of another, I think, pretty fascinating deep dive. The core lesson here, really. In today's retail landscape, intellectual property isn't just about protection anymore. It hasn't been for a while. It's fundamentally about growth, about innovation, and about truly owning your market space. It's these intangible assets that are driving the biggest, most interesting strategic plays we're seeing.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a thought, doesn't it? As these lines between digital and physical commerce just keep blurring, and with IP becoming such a, central currency in retail, how might the very definition of crafting itself, and maybe who owns it, how might that evolve in the next decade? What new creative innovations might be unlocked? Or perhaps which ones might be stifled in this new IP-driven kind of empire? Lots to think about. Thanks so much for joining us on the Deep Dive. Until next time, keep those creative gears turning.